Thank you.
Dr. Fennoy, if we can just pause a second. Mrs. Andrews, you're frozen on my screen, so if you want to ask any question, you need to go ahead and turn your mic on and ask it, because I can't see if you raise your hand.
No, I did not raise my hand.
Okay, thank you. Until you're unfrozen, I don't know if you can tell, but the rest of us see you as frozen. If you want to ask a question, you're just going to have to turn your mic and ask it, because there's no way I'm going to be able to recognize you because I can't see you. Go ahead, Dr. Fennoy.
Yes, Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Dr. Fennoy. Good afternoon, board members. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sheffield and Ms. Fetterman, who put together a good presentation on summer learning opportunities for our students as best as possible during these challenging times. Dr. Sheffield?
Yes, good afternoon. Mr. Barbieri, board members, and Dr. Fennoy. The purpose of this workshop, of course, today is to just share with you the continuation of our distance learning opportunities for our students during this upcoming summer. After working alongside with the team, we decided to approach this learning as summer essentials. Before going into the overview of the summer learning, it is going to be imperative for me that I personally thank each of you for your ongoing support and constructive feedback during the utilization of our current distance learning platform. All of your feedback was taken into consideration, as we developed this Summer Essential platform. And our Summer Essential platform is broken into 3 areas. And as I start going through this platform, I do want to also let you know that at the conclusion of this, I asked that Diana Fetterman join me, because she's actually going to go live as will be releasing immediately after the board workshop with feedback in regards to the opportunities that we're going to have available for our families this summer. The program, as I said earlier, is broken down into 3 tiers, with our first tiers being our intensive programs. Our intensive programs are the programs which will be for our ESY students, our ELL students, our migrant programs, and our 8th grade students that will be participating in our Jumpstart. And then we will go over to phase 2, another phase of it, which is our specific summer programs for our K-5 students. And it's our targeted interventions. And I'm going to give a little more in regards to what kinds of interventions that will be provided to the selected students in our K-5 schools. The regional offices will be working very, very closely with the principals and teachers in identifying those students. And then the last part of it, which is phase 3, is our summer learning opportunities for all students, meaning that every student here, K-12, here in the school district of Palm Beach County, is going to have an opportunity to continue some form of enrichment during this upcoming summer. That was very important to us. And as we go into talking about the various offering of our Summer Essential programs, the intensive program, which was phase 1 that I initially showed you, just this screen is just giving you a breakdown in regards to the time frame for it. And as you can see, for our extended school year for ESY, which is our ESE students, we have 9 virtual sites. We have 2 sites in all of our areas. The Glades, with the exception of the Glades, due to the size, will have 1 site. Those sites will all have a site administrator, and Kevin McCormick and Harvey has just done a fabulous job in building their teams, and looking forward to continuing with those population of students. And you also see the dates in which we'll be running. And then alongside, you see we have our ESOL program. And again, that's for ELL, along with our migrant service programs. And again, you will see the sites, how many sites will be for each program. And then lastly, our Jumpstart. Our Jumpstart, again, is for our select 8th grade students that will be going on to high school in the fall. Now in phase two, in the middle of that triangle that you saw earlier, was the program that I talked about as it pertains to targeted intervention. And again, that's for all of our elementary schools. All of our elementary schools will have an opportunity to participate. And again, the regional officers are working with teachers and identifying the students that are selected as it pertains to have been targeted for such intervention. And that program is going to run from June 4th through July 1st. And our summer learning for all. Our summer learning for all, that was at the very bottom of that triangle. And that's the opportunity in regards to our what we call our version 2.0 of our continuity plan. And again, it's going to focus on all of our summer essentials. I will have virtual field trips. We have our virtual libraries, and we're also going to have helpful tips for our parents and students in regards to what are some of the essentials that they would need to be successful for the upcoming year. And at this time, what I'm going to ask to give you a more deeper dive in regards to what those programs will look like on the digital platform side, I'm going to ask Mrs. Fetterman to come in live, and then we will take questions and answers at the end. Mrs. Fetterman.
Before you do that, Dr. Sheffield, Mrs. Brill had her hand up. So, Mrs. Brill, do you want to ask a question right now?
Thank you. I actually have 3 related to those slides that I think would be helpful before we see that. The first is very basic. What do you mean by a virtual site? Are you talking about online, or are you talking about a place where people go to learn virtually?
It's online.
Okay. So this is really critical, 2 sets of questions. I understand that all internet service providers who have been giving complimentary service have extended until June 30th. But you're talking about beyond June 30th. Will they extend through July 23rd for ESY? And can we request extending the service availability through December so that we can meet the needs of the students not returning to school?
Mrs. Burrow, yes, we do have a team. Mark Howard is leading that work up to where we are working with our local providers and trying to extend the services for our families.
So just my other question, Mr. Barbieri, is that for the intensive programs, yes, they're ESE and they're driven by an IEP. Those populations for ESY, the migrant programs also, ELL and Jumpstart, these are the students that have the most difficulty with virtual learning and access to virtual learning. So my question is, how will we monitor, and would you please give us data on a weekly basis on what percentage of those students are actually participating? Because it really worries me that those that need ESY are those that cannot do it, and especially when their parents go back to work. You know, there's not going to be someone to prompt them, the kids that are ADHD. You know what I'm talking about. So,
yes.
So again, how will you monitor, and can we get that data to see what's actually occurring?
Yes, I will definitely work with Harvey and the team in making certain that we provide that data on a weekly basis to the board office in regards to the students that we have participating. And we are very selective in regards to the staff that have been hired to work with both our ESY and our ELL program. And the staff selection came by the monitoring and of those students that we saw during the current phase of this distance learning in which we're in now, that have just done a stellar job as it pertains to just maximizing and going the extra mile. So we will continue to monitor that.
Mrs. McQuinn.
Sometimes that mute button escapes me. Okay, well now I need to remember. Oh, I know what it was. Sorry, but Dr. Sheffield said something that I had another question. Do we have, for example, I was at my, virtually, my American Association for Monday, and it seems like I just said that in the last meeting. So the month has gone very quickly and very slowly, but we do have students who live in neighborhoods that don't have any access to Wi-Fi. So we know still not getting services. I'm sure they're showing up in your data. Have we looked into purchasing hotspots or putting them on a bus or anything like that to these communities that don't yet have that?
Yeah, we have, and actually, Ms. McQuinn, we've been able to provide some of our families, not many, some hotspot devices. And we're continuing to just look for the resources that are available to us. And as those hotspots become available, we do know the families that are in need, and we provide those hotspots as we are able to retrieve them from our providers.
So, sorry for following up. So as we're able to retrieve them, that means
providers retrieving means that we have providers that are working with us that have actually loaned us. Say we had 10. And so we knew that we had 10 students that were participating in McKinney Vente, which is our homeless population. And we needed to get some devices to those particular students. So we immediately utilized those 10 hotspots that we were able to have a connection with and loan them over for those particular students. And we're continuing to look for those various initiatives.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Barbieri, just one small question regarding with Dr. Sheffield. Who is hiring the teachers when you said we're being very selective in doing the virtual learning for particularly our ELL and ESC students? Who's doing hiring for that?
It's the principal, and with collaboration with Harvey and Kevin. So it's school-based along with the assistance from the director for both areas.
All right, Dr. Fenoy, did you have something you want to add to that answer before Mrs. Whitfield speaks?
Yeah, I just wanted to let the board to know, thanks to the Economic Council and Business Development Board, I'm on a series of their communications and education committees. The Vice President of Community Outreach for Comcast has now been connected with Glenda's team to work on helping us access resources for those families in need. And also they have agreed to work with other service providers using their network to help us extend this work. So we've now turned all those relationships over to the CAO's office, and they're working through that. Just want to let you know.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy. Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. So I wanted to ask a question about the summer learning for all. Couple of things. On my slide that I have, the summer essentials is kind of cut off. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about what's happening there. And then the other question I had, I just feel like this last few months, students throughout the district, even our highly successful students are struggling. And one of the things that one of my daughter's teachers wrote to me and said that she's going to be sending home, activities for the summer just to keep kids going and give them something to do in case we do have a very slow summer. And I was wondering, is that something the district is asking for or is encouraging teachers to do throughout the district, or is she just amazing? And is there, with the summer essentials, what is it going to be? What is it going to encompass so that these students have an opportunity to continue their learning since it may have been halted during this time?
But Mrs. Whitfield, that's going to be a part of when we go live. That conversation will come up as we move through as it pertains to the essentials. And you're going to see some of that work in regards to how could we address not just that summer slide gap that we talk about, but this COVID-19. So if we can go live, then I think we will probably answer your question once we go live and you actually see how that work is built in.
So there'll be opportunities for students to be able to get extra enrichment if their parents feel that they need it, or if they felt like they missed out on some things during the year. There'll be things like that.
Well, it would be with the support of the parent. The way that we have the summer essentials set up, it is very directed. We have it to a level to where if it's not, we know with the elementary, it would probably be a little difficult. They're going to need the assistance of, the parents or whomever. but the way we have designed it and have all those immediate pieces, we think that it will definitely be manageable. Of course, ultimately, we would have loved to just be able to, have our teachers continuing to work with our students in building those gaps throughout the entire summer. But we knew that was just not, possible. Funding, of course, will hinder any and all of those things, right? So when we talked in regards to the targeted group for K-5, and we looked particularly at those students, say your level 1, level 2, and then within those schools, let's say our low 300 schools, we were just very, very, had to streamline in regards to the dollars in which we were working with. So that's why it was just important for us when we did the summer essentials and for all that last bucket is making certain that whatever it is that we put together for a total group, that it was going to be user friendly and it was going to be tied to standards. And it was something that the parents or, whomever or other child, because they are not now became very savvy and utilizing this digital platform to continue just reinforcing those skills. And if there's also some remediation pieces in there.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Robinson, before you go, Mrs. McQuinn, unless you fell asleep with your eyes open, you've been frozen for like 10 minutes. So if you want to say something, you're going to have to speak up. Dr. Robinson.
Okay, thank you. So I really appreciate the work that has been done on actually all 3 tiers, but especially the summer essentials and then that second tier. Traditionally, we've only funded, our funding for summer school has been narrow and it's basically been, for the most part, for children who were threatening to be retained in 3rd grade. I think that this is part of the improvement that we need to make. And I hope that we do this on a forever basis, that this is how we do business. So as I know you're about to show us go live on it, but just to kind of follow up on Mrs. Whitfield, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Summer Essentials is a depository of information, if you will. Summer Essentials does not come with any staffing allocation to work with students. It's the tier 2 where the staffing allocation comes in. That's correct. Okay, I see you nodding your head. So
yes, you're correct.
Okay. And so, and I do appreciate and have some clarity on, I'm going to call it the politics of the Palm Beach County School District and the need to maybe not anger vocal groups. But I'm still not convinced that formula that was created for allocating the staff for the tier 2 is right. In my mind, we need to make sure that every student that has formally tested at level 1 in reading, or whatever the equivalent would be in running reading records or iReady or whatever for K2, whatever that equivalence is. So I'm looking at K5. Every child that has performed on their most recent assessment at the lowest level, that each and every one of those children should have the opportunity to have one of our teachers teach them in this relatively, it's not really small group, but relatively small group setting over the summer to make sure that they are not as far behind as they otherwise would be. So I need to see the proof. I mean, because I know at some schools, and this happens in other scenarios, and we might be all well-meaning, but at some schools, if you're going to allocate a certain amount, that might be able to cover the kids who have tested at level 1 and level 2, whereas at other schools, that allocation may not even provide for all the kids who formally tested at level 1. And so I just need us to look at that. I mean, I know I've been told that the allocation will meet the needs of all children who formally performed at level 1 or the equivalents in all of the schools, but I haven't seen it yet. And I need to make sure if we're going to talk about equity, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we direct our resources to the kids who are furthest behind in reading. Our Tier 3 attempts to do that based upon other categorizations, right? ELL, ESC, migrant, so forth. But for the kids who don't fall into one of those categories but are testing way, way behind, we need to make sure that we allocate the resources needed to work with them over the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Mrs. Andrews, I understand you want to go next, and Ms. McQuinn, I think we're trying to fix, I feel like an air traffic control in a blizzard, but I think you wanted to speak, Mrs. Andrews, so do next. Oh, and then Mr. Shaw.
I would like to find out, where are the students that are in our programs, our dropout prevention programs, the ones that are actually in our centers, our crossroads, our major centers? Where are they in the scheme of things here?
Ms. Andrews, the students that are within our alternative ed sites, of course, they're continuing with their Edgenuity, which is our seniors that are that may not have completed all of their requirements by last Friday or what have you, that will continue to go through the summer. Those schools are our alternative ed sites are continuing to navigate and move their students through course recovery with Edgenuity. Now, as it pertains to all these other components, they will come in that, what we call that bottom tier that talks about the summer essentials for all students. They would utilize in which that group. Now, if we have some students that have been identified in 8th grade that are within the alternative ed sites that have been identified to participate in the Jumpstart program, those students will participate in Jumpstart. There is a criteria for Jumpstart, and I think we have about 100 students that will be participating. And I could not tell you in regard to how many students, if there are any students that were selected from the alternative ed sites, did they meet the criteria? But those would be the two buckets as it pertains to the alternative sites and the opportunities that they have. For Jumpstart, if they're in 8th grade, and then all students have the opportunity to participate in the summer essentials for all students.
Mrs. Andrews, if you have a follow-up, go ahead and ask it.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out too, as we're looking at this, because I do like this, and I would like to monitor how students are doing. Will Mark Howard have a way to track these students and how well they're doing in these particular groups, since it's all online as we had before? Will he be able to show me, if I'm actually looking for a particular group of students, how well they're doing?
I would work with Mark Howard, and I'm sure that he will be able to create a dashboard for us once we've identified the students. And are you referring to the students that are participating in our targeted group, which would be that middle tier?
Well, I'm not talking about any group that I would want to find out about, you know, how well they're doing based on ELL, ESOL, or the alternative programs. I would want to know. So
okay.
Right now we can look at it by regions, each school, what students are doing, and so on. So for summer, if I just want to kind of get a cap-sized picture of what's happening with the students in the summer program based on all these groups who are in my area and all over the county, well, Mark would have something so I can look at that and see how well we're doing.
I would follow up with Mr. Howard. I would follow up with him and look at the bucket of work that we have going on, and to see if there's a dashboard on which the team can create.
And the last thing, because it truly is all about learning and how well the children are doing in all of these programs. Thank you, Dr. Sheffield.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Shaw, go ahead.
With the conversations we had about direct contact, and especially the things that Dr. Robinson said, I've had several conversations with different cities related to summer camps. And I know that there are some cities that are considering having limited live summer camp activities. I know we saw things in the press recently about the Boys and Girls Club maybe doing live activities and stuff. I'd like to suggest that we reach out to some of them and see if there are any opportunities that may be there that we could offer teachers some employment during the summer to go to these summer camps on a tutorial type basis, work with small groups of kids and see if that may be a beneficial thing. So I think it's a way to think out of the box that has some potential. So I'd like to see us consider any options along that line.
In follow up to Mr. Shaw's question, I had discussed this with the general counsel's office as well as the superintendent. If we have our teachers going to these kind of places, or even if we don't and they're available during the summer, I know we have, there's apparently an ethics opinion out there that says that our teachers can't tutor their own students. I've asked the general counsel's office to get a copy of that ethics opinion to Mr. LaFace in Tallahassee to see if the governor would waive that ethics issue. And I don't believe we have a board policy on that, but we may. But we need to make sure that we give our teachers the opportunity to work with their students directly, because our teachers know best, rather than bringing in a different teacher, our teachers know best which kids in their classrooms need extra help. So if we can make sure that somehow we can work on allowing our teachers, especially like Mr. Shaw suggested, if some of our teachers are going to some of those organizations and their own students show up and they're getting paid now, I mean, I don't want to see any conflict for the teachers that are basically tutoring their own children. Also, with respect to this program that you've laid out here, I know it includes a lot of the lowest performing students, but there may be, but I'm sure there's a lot of other students in the district that could use the help, and I realize we don't have the money to pay teachers to do that. But again, the same issue. If parents want to retain some of the teachers that have been teaching their children during the distance learning process during the summer, we need to make sure they have the availability to do that. A third grade teacher may know that little Johnny needs some extra help in reading, and she should be able to work with that student. If the parents want to pay for it, if the teacher can't afford to do it gratis, then we need to make sure that there's some way to make that happen. So, Dr. Sheffield, would you follow up with the superintendent and the general counsel's office on that and see what we can do in that regard?
Yes, I will.
All right, Ms. McQuinn, I can't see you, so if you have a question, you can go ahead and ask it now. If not, we'll move on, I guess.
I don't have a question, and I just contacted Mrs. Bass. I haven't had a problem with freezing up, so I may go, when we go to the regular board meeting, go back to the other platform that we were using, but I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any further questions before they continue? All right, Dr. Sheffield, do you want to go ahead?
At this time, Mrs. Fetterman is going to go live with our 2.0 for our summer essentials. And again, thank you all.
So I'm excited to share with you our Summer Learning Essentials site at this time. And this is a site that the team has worked together to build, and this will benefit all students in the district, from our incoming kindergartner students who have been able to pre-register through our incoming 12th graders. So this is something that can serve everyone. And what you see here, and I will walk you briefly through each of these pieces, is you see our summer essential activities, which is something that Dr. Sheffield talked to you about, virtual learning, our virtual libraries, targeted intervention, and this was that tier 2 aspect. Here's where those resources will live, and then some helpful resources. So here are our summer essentials. And what we have here are different activities that our parents and families, our students, can engage in throughout the course of the summer in order to ensure that they are prepared for the upcoming school year. So let me show you just one brief example. And what this is it takes the most essential aspects that the incoming first grader needs to know in order to be successful in first grade. So if I go here for week 1, It's one overarching lesson for the course of the week, but it engages multiple activities. So a family could choose to do different activities each day, or perhaps just one activity for the day. Or each of the lessons are done independently of each other. So if a family chooses, I just can't participate this week, we have a lot going on, a family can sit out 1 week, but then re-engage the very next week, and that wouldn't be a problem because everything is independent of each other. But for this week 1 of incoming first grade, everything revolves around a piece of text. Our media center specialists have truly engaged, and they have done read aloud videos. So you see the read aloud video text here. We have the lesson written here for families to help our students get the activities together. These are the big concepts. So in math, it's about identifying and comparing shapes. That's the skill our students will need going into first grade to be successful. Here is the lesson that will air on the television, because we know that is an additional way that our students have been able to be successful, is to watch the lessons on the television screen. So that will still be something that is available. And we will have these concepts 1 per week for the incoming students for incoming K through incoming 5. And then additionally, we have our virtual libraries. So this has been a partnership that we have with not only our own media centers in our school district, but then with the Palm Beach County Library System, and then the Mandel Library in the city of West Palm Beach. So we have our elementary reading resources, secondary, ebook resources so students can check out books from their own school library, and then access to our Palm Beach County Library systems. So that way they can get into virtual story times, get tutoring help, or check out books from the Palm Beach County Library System. This, I think, is one of the most exciting things to me, is the virtual learning experiences that our students can engage in. So families can travel around the world without leaving their homes. They can engage in self-guided explorations, go to Yankee Stadium, or perhaps the National Museum of African American History and Culture, or perhaps they want to go to the Smithsonian Latino Center. They could also do a pre-recorded video, which we recorded these videos walking through different aspects. So they can explore with polar bears in the tundra, or perhaps learn more about Black Wall Street in the Greenwood Cultural Center. So those are different areas they can go in. Our local connections, so they can explore any of these local aspects as well. Or have career chats down here, and learn about how to get into different career aspects by learning from different people in those careers. And those are just the ones that we currently have populated. Teams are working together and departments are working together across our district to continue creation and continue populating. And again, this is something that all of our students from incoming K through our incoming 12 can benefit from and can engage in with their families. And then the last page I want to show is something that are just some helpful resources that our families can use. We have sight words and vocabulary lists by grade level when they click on here. Some success for our incoming 6th graders and incoming 9th graders when they enter into middle or high school. That transition can be challenging, and we want to help them plan for success. So what does that mean? And we're populating it with different tips and videos and some plans there. And then, of course, some different aspects here, including Algebra Nation and Khan Academy. So to practice and make sure they're prepared for algebra, Khan Academy, Success Maker, and we're still populating some additional pieces there. So that is our current live center. Students access this through the same instructional continuity portal they have used all along, which is a way we make it simple for our families. We don't change sites, we don't change anything. And that makes it very easy for our families to continue to engage. So that's what I have to show you today, and I'm happy to entertain any further questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Burrow. I think you were next.
Thank you. And I have to tell you, this is very exciting. Looking at that, first of all, I want to go to Yankee Stadium. It's probably safer to go. In fact, it is safer to go online. Obviously, we need communications, the communications department, to push this out. and with as many organizations and early learning centers as we can. And especially, we passed kindergarten roundup, right? So we've got to let those kindergarten parents know about these resources so the kids are ready to come to school. But I think it's great. My question is, how are you promoting this so that everybody knows?
So we are working with the Department of Communications. Today was our unveiling to the board. So moving forward, we will start our communications outreach to ensure that everyone knows, our community knows, and we'll make sure to continue to advertise in multiple formats.
The news organizations, especially Channel 5 and Channel 12, seem to be showing up at everything that's positive for the district lately. So, possibly they would do some community service announcements and let everyone know that we have all these programs available, because we have 200,000 kids out there and their families may see this long before they do. So if we can get that out there over the airwaves, that would be great. I think, I don't know, Dr. Robinson, you were next. Go ahead.
Thank you. So as I said, I'm really pleased to see this. Are we going to have something in Spanish and Creole for those parents?
So the the essential lessons are being translated. So if we kept scrolling down on the list, the translations of those lessons are posted there.
Great.
So we are populating those. So
Okay.
we have translations for those as well. Yes.
Okay, and then just to follow up, so I did not see this. Can you just list the essentials? You have it set out week by week, and that's fantastic. But can you somewhere just list that going to fourth grade, here's the ELA essentials, here's the math essentials? Can you just list them? Because there might be somebody who wants to teach it to their child or grandchild, like their favorite way, right? As opposed to, and then what's online is a backup for them, right? So if we could just list them. And then in terms of getting the word out, we could talk about that. There's a lot of different opportunities, including if we could get our communications to do a little video that could air on, for example, municipal TV stations. I really want it aired on Riviera Beach TV when they're taking a break from their city council meeting, because everybody's watching it, right? We could also push that out through Children's Services Council, Every Parent app. That's one way. And then maybe if we could talk about it later. I have some more ideas, but yeah, it's good. Good work. Let's continue to make it even better. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members have any questions? Dr. Sheffield?
Okay, now that will conclude. It was just important for us to just share with the board in regards to what the digital platform will look like over the summer as we continue to navigate this virtual space. And we know that there's just a lot of work to do, and we know that we have to continue to work with our families, our parents, and our students, and we are committed to doing so. And we do appreciate the authentic feedback that each of you provide to us, because that just helps us make our work more intentional and deliberate about reaching every single child. So we do appreciate the support from the board.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. So we need a motion to adjourn. What I'd like to do is, hold on a minute, Dr. Fenoy, if you don't mind. We're going to take a break so that the board members can all exit and come back in, because Mrs. Andrews and Ms. McQuinn's cameras are not apparently working, so it's going to be difficult for me to see who wants to ask questions. So as soon as Dr. Fenoy's finished, I'll take a motion to adjourn, and then we'll take a break and reconvene the board meeting at 5 o'clock. Dr. Fenoy, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to share with the board, the chief of staff has had me communicating with all of the municipal leaders over the last couple of weeks, and there has not been a municipality that has not agreed to share any content that we produce from our communications department, and they will put it on their, in their meetings. So I have agreements from the entire county to assist us in the outreach effort. Just wanted to share that with the board.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy. So at this time, take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Brill, seconded by Mr. Shaw, thank you. All in favor? If I don't hear anybody in opposition, I'll assume that everybody's okay with adjourning. The clerk and IT has suggested that you don't just leave the meeting, you actually go ahead and exit your browser and come back in. So let's see if we can reset the cameras that are frozen. So if you'd all try that, I'd appreciate it. See you at 5 o'clock.
Okay.